And thank you for checking into the Neutral Zone Hotel, an unapologetically left-leaning podcast covering hockey at its best and its worst. My name is Trevor. My pronouns are he, him. I am your hometown Vancouver Canucks fan, and I am so thrilled to welcome you to the Neutral Zone Hotel. Oh, one take, best intro I've ever done.
Good
Love
job.
to see it.
Real good job. Way to go.
Thank you. And with that, you can tell that Benjamin's also here.
Hey, folks. It's Benjamin. I'm a Montreal Canadiens and Ottawa Charge fan in Ottawa, Ontario. My pronouns are he, him. And I just want to say big shout out to everybody in the city of Ottawa who went to that Minnesota Frost Charge game last week and who booed the ever-living shit out of Britta Curl every time she touched the puck. I just want to say transphobes suck, and she deserved every inch of it that she got, and it clearly took her off her game.
Amen. Also here is SJ.
Hello, I am SJ. My pronouns are they, them, and I remember how to do an intro. I am a Seattle Kraken fan. And I just realized that I was clicking my pen at the beginning of this, which means that John is going to have to cut out like 3 or 4 clicks. John, I've put the pen down.
And about a month ago or so, SJ and I did a live interview with a couple potential candidates for employee. We got another live interview today for the open position of desk jockey. Want to introduce yourself for us?
My name's Jordan. My pronouns are he, him. I am part-time in Toronto and part-time in Kamloops, currently in Toronto.
Excellent. Yeah. Fun. I think the first time you and I ever actually talked directly was when you messaged me saying, "Hey, I'm moving to Kamloops for school, and you're the only other person in the server who's mentioned Kamloops before. Do you have anything for me?" And I'm like, yes, but also no. But it's been fun.
They have a WHL team.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very bad, but fun to watch.
Look,
Yep.
The WHL cycle is very fast. They'll be great in like 2 years.
Yeah, an evergreen statement unless you're the London Knights.
My dad's from Kamloops, so there's lots of Kamloops connections here.
I think we talked about that last year when we were hanging out. So we know we didn't record last week. Sorry, but kind of not sorry. There wasn't a lot going on, and sometimes we need a bit of a break. They allow us to go on.
We were on our international break.
Yeah, you don't actually have to explain these things, Trevor. You can just roll with them.
That's right.
I just said we were on strike. Like, come on. But we got a decent show planned. We're going to start off with PWHL coverage because we got 2 whole weeks worth to cover that, including, I think we're going to, instead of kind of going in order by games, we're going to skip into the main meat and potatoes. The Takeover Tour in Edmonton, featuring the Ottawa Charge and the Toronto Scepters, drew 17,000 fans. Pretty solid game. And Jordan, you were at that one.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of going to 2 Takeover Series games now, both at Rogers, one Rogers Arena, and now this one at Rogers Place. And so both great games with some, I like the result of this one a lot better personally, though I can't complain about the Poulin goal I got to see the first time, but I did think the fan experience of the 2 games was very different, and I'm excited to get into that with you guys.
Yeah, in our Discord, you hinted at it a little bit, but so what were like some of the major differences? Because obviously when Emily and Madison were on with SJ and I, we all had a lot of discussion regarding that because SJ's experience in Seattle, at least in terms of like the fandom itself was fine, but in terms of like merch, it was, to put it bluntly, bad in Seattle. Whereas and then also in Denver, like they had the foam fingers for the Frost. Like they made that, like they super went in on that. So what did Edmonton do or not do in this case?
Well, it was would be in the middle of those two. I mean, it was the merch itself was very generic, like Takeover Tour and PWHL branded. There was nothing for either team, but the actual game experience, it was as if it was a Charge home game in every way. Like I think if I were to go to Ottawa, I would have had like what the DJ played to how they talked about power plays and penalty kills and all that would have been pretty much the same. And so there was a great energy in the rink. People knew, and like during breaks when the DJ's playing music, it was really loud in there. And then the game would start, and I could hear 3 sections over a group of girls trying to start the wave for about half the second period because there was it was silent.
Oh no! So you're saying there wasn't a big Charge fan contingent?
So it was a lot of neutral fans who were just there, like they're Edmonton fans, and they're just excited for the women's hockey, and they were really excited for the game. It was really loud in there when there was music playing, when there were things happening, but during the game, like there was a small group of Scepters fans, a couple sections away, that at one point tried to do a "Let's go Scepters" chant. There was one Charge fan, like 2 rows over from me, who replied with "Let's go Charge," as with going like the break in the middle, because they didn't know that it's for one syllable. It's "Go Charge Go." It was not a partisan crowd, but it was a partisan fan experience, is I guess the best way to say it.
And that's interesting because we've discussed before how, at least for the States games, when they had a States team versus a Canadian team, they went all in on the States team being the home team for it. Whereas the prior 2 Canadian ones, one of them makes sense because it's Quebec City, so you've already got the same province. So that makes sense why they'd lean into it being a Victoire home game. Whereas the one that you and I attended in Vancouver, they treat it as a neutral site game. I think very like enthusiastic goal horn for both teams, enthusiastic goal announcements and whatnot. So when you told us that in Discord that it was heavily like Charge home game, Scepters road game, I was taken aback by it. So
I think a large portion of the marketing was around Emmerich Mashmeyer and Danielle Serdachny, both of whom are Alberta products. And I think the expectation would be this is the team with a few of the hometown stars. We expect Edmontonians to latch onto that and pick a team that, has the people who are from the local area, which I think is not an unreasonable expectation. But I think if you're going to do that, you need to import the fan experience in more than just goal horns and announcers. You need to actually go to your way to make sure that you're bringing in people who can lead chants or give somebody the bugle to blow the charge, which is something that happens now at our home games.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
See, no one's snuck an actual bugle in yet, so it's just this one very loud woman who goes ba-da-da-da-da-da as loud as she can. And then
it would be
everyone
tough to
yells
get
charge.
a bugle through the metal detectors, I think.
Well,
it's
we've talked about finding like a plastic one.
Yeah, you would need a plastic one.
Huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like people bring cowbells in. How is it any different than a cowbell? It's less annoying.
A lot of arenas actually ban cowbells.
Yeah.
I mean, as they should, but
there's only ever been 1 or 2 in the Ottawa in TD Place, but yeah. So I think that's kind of the reasoning for it, but it seems like they did not go out of their way to import what made playing at TD Place special, which is like just the insane commitment of the fans, which again I think shows they're the loudest arena to boo Britta Curl, because it's that Ottawa crowd. You'll see, SJ, it's real queer. Like, it's full of gay people, trans people. It's real beautiful. And it's loud and it's very aggressive. So it sounds like they lost some of that. And I think that's natural. But I think just relying on the fact that 2 of the stars are from that city or the region was probably a little optimistic, and that's going to generate the fan interest.
Yeah, the thing that surprised me, they didn't, at no point, like when they did the announcements, I think Ottawa actually has 3 players from Edmonton, if you or the greater Edmonton area, yeah, and all 3 of them started the game, and they got a lot loud applause for starting because a lot of the crowd did happen to know. But like when we were at the Vancouver game, they mentioned that Jennifer Gardner was from Burnaby like 3 or 4 times. it did not come up from the PA a single time. Apparently it happened. Apparently the broadcast kept talking about it, is what I've been told. Yeah. But in arena, they never mentioned it. You had to know or sort of wonder like, oh, I wonder why these players who are usually on like Ottawa's third liner pair or whatever are the starters this game. It's because they're from here, but they didn't actually say it explicitly. So if you weren't already in the loop, like there were a lot of people. They did a general explainer for the league beforehand. They talked about the rule changes. That was great. Some fans were really excited to hear about some of them, and the people next to me had never been to a game before, but decided they were going to be giant Scepters fans now. And and we're talking about how they really want like the power play and penalty kill rules to come to the NHL because they really enjoyed it and thought it would give the Oilers an advantage if the no escape rule existed.
It would. They're not wrong. The Oilers power play doesn't need the help.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was on board for that until you said that, and now I'm just like, oh no, that can stay in the PWHL. Jailbreaks can come on over, but yeah.
So because this is a visual medium, you can't see that I'm holding up my home opener Charge towel just because Jordan keeps saying positive things about the Scepters.
Yeah.
It's okay to be a Toronto fan. That's allowed.
It's okay until the team loses 3 straight in a best of 5 series yet again.
Well, that's just the Toronto hockey team way. I mean,
yeah, and I got out of it. I never had to do all that on the men's side. But
yeah, because they lose in like 7. I get it.
Well, not just that, but because Jordan, you're not a Leafs fan, if I remember correctly.
No, I'm an Avalanche fan. So
we need to stop interviewing Avalanche fans. Jesus Christ, you're everywhere.
It's fine. It's okay.
Actually, I shouldn't sound surprised. He's the reason I went to that game.
Trevor,
it's okay to be an Avalanche fan. It's not okay to be a Cale Makar fan.
Trevor, the last 2 people you brought on live in Denver. What the hell did you expect?
I'm trying to be funny for podcasting's sake. Cut me a break.
All right.
Mm. Please continue.
At least from the Edmonton fans, I'm guessing at least probably appreciate it, especially those who don't necessarily follow the league. At least I'm hoping they appreciated what they got to see because...
Yeah, the reaction there was overwhelmingly positive. Anytime something happened, they responded. I think the one thing that I will have to flag as a music guy is the DJ there. I really don't think appreciated what she needed to do for a neutral site game. As you'll remember at the Vancouver game, it was pretty much all sing-alongs, and that's what when the team didn't when the crowd didn't really have something to chant because they didn't have a strong, they weren't really big Scepters or Victoire fans, though they, as soon as they saw those jerseys, I think pretty heavily got more into the Victoire. There were lots of sing-along opportunities, and that's what kept the crowd so loud during play in Vancouver. But I've respected what the DJ played in Edmonton. It was really upbeat, a lot of remixes, and just the problem with that is the second that music stops, people can't sing along because it's either not a song they know or 2 songs they know mixed together in a mashup, or just a song they know at a different speed than they're used to, and the crowd just can't keep that going. And so I think that was one of the things that could have been improved in terms of getting it loud during play, but it was really obvious the fans were having a great time, and I mean they got to see an overtime game. Luckily, I accidentally sat on the side that had all the action. I did not speak to anyone who sat right on the far side at the other net, where they got no goals, but also I think in the first 2 periods, like shots between the 2 nets, I believe were 38-7 or something like that. Or
that's just bad luck.
Brutal.
So I didn't speak to anyone who sat on that side to know how they enjoyed it, but everyone around us had a great time. It was there were long lines to get in, like into Rogers Place, like well before the game started. before the game, like I saw merch stands taking down samples because they clearly had sold out of certain things they had like pre-game. Like there were huge lines for merch. It was people were having a great time, but there was definitely something they could work on for fan experience. Like if you're going to not do a neutral site game, you really need to go in on that. And yeah, as you said, like make sure you have people who are Charge fans who know what it's like at the games and can get the crowd into it.
Yeah.
Or at least more sing-alongs.
Yeah.
Either one.
I mentioned this before. I'm still I'm not necessarily as surprised that Seattle, for lack of better words, dropped the ball on merch because they were the guinea pig. They were really the first one to do it. I'm surprised that Edmonton dropped the ball so hard though, because you had over a month to kind of see what the expectation would be, and especially too, like Vancouver obviously showed that they knew what to do for it, but because by all accounts they did the best job for merch. But I don't know, maybe it's just being out in the sticks, out in the prairies like that does it for Edmonton. I think. Do we have anything else to cover with?
I was going to say, I think it's just it might even just be a general merchandise issue because they are consistently out of product on the main store, especially like jerseys and stuff. So if they don't have enough to sell there, my last time walking through the shop in Ottawa, it was pretty picked over. So my buddy took my tickets last week to take his daughter to the game. They had a great time. They were at the 8-3 blowout win. A hell of a game to go to. They had a fantastic time, but they couldn't find a jersey in her size on the way out.
That's
brutal.
Yeah.
On that note, I just got an email like 4 hours ago saying that, you went to the Edmonton Takeover Tour. Here's a code for free shipping on your merch to anywhere in Canada. So they clearly,
neat.
They clearly are aware.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, that's a nice bonus. Do we have anything else that we want to cover about the Takeover Tour game, or do we want to move on to some other games that the league went through?
Well, I just have to shout out Daryl Watts and that performance.
No. We don't have to shout out Gerald Watts.
Out of all the Toronto players that could score there, it had to be her, and just what a kick in the junk.
I mean, Charge fans are obviously not pleased that the first high-profile league defection occurred from Ottawa to Montreal. It is for this sport. Yeah, sorry, to Toronto. It is the biggest kick in the teeth that an Ottawa sports franchise can have, and there's a lot of pent up anger there over the general kind of Ottawa little brother sports stuff that they have towards Toronto. But yeah, it is frustrating because they offered her more money to stay in Ottawa, and she chose not to. It's not a lot of money, especially since she's pretty rich, but it is frustrating.
All right. So let's move on to a couple other fun games. And you know what? Because we've alluded to it a couple times, let's cover a record-breaking game in the PWHL, that 8-3 game between Ottawa and Minnesota, which broke or tied 4 records.
Yeah, it was really
Number
cool.
1, most goals in a game combined between both teams with a total of 11. Most goals by one team with Ottawa having 8. And most goals in a period by teams combined 4. And most goals in a period by one team 4. Holy smokes, as an Ottawa fan, that ruled so hard. Like, I know I'm stating the obvious here, but I think I was out and I got back right at the end of the first period, so just after it got to 2-2. So I got to sit in my chair and enjoy the absolute rear end kicking that happened afterwards, and great to see.
Yeah, I got back around the same time and started watching it, and it was a hell of a game. A little sad I wasn't at it, but my buddy and his his wife and their daughter had a hell of an experience. So I think that's a win. That's a really special game to be at, one you'll remember for a long time. seeing Gabby Hughes break out of her season-long slump and then get another goal at the takeover game was also really great. Good for the team. I was hoping they would carry more of that momentum into the takeover game. The challenge that I have is that one game represents like a fifth of the team's goals in the season.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons why, one of which is Ottawa is the most penalized team, and one of which is Ottawa gets the least amount of power play opportunities by significant margins. But ultimately, they haven't generated anywhere near the chance or power play success that they did last year. And it's been extremely painful to watch. So while I was very happy to see one game change it, this is hockey. One game is not meaningful. It needs to become part of a trend. And I saw more of the team that existed before the Minnesota game in Edmonton than the one that did in that Minnesota game that frankly dominated every aspect of play. Especially like that first period, Ottawa comes out, suppresses shots, 17 shots for, only 3 against. And then by the end of the game, they're on the wrong side of the shot clock as well as the score sheet. And that is kind of the Charge experience this year. Has been one good period somewhere in there and 2 stinky ones where you lose the game.
Yeah, with going back to the 8-3 one, awesome as well to see Agnieszka Tiaralova get the hat trick there.
That wasn't Tiaralova, Venisova.
Oh, sorry, yeah, it was
Teresa
Venisova. Wow, what the heck am I on? My bad. Anyway, yeah.
All Czech players are the same. It's fine.
There's an Nova at the end. That's all you need to know. But then also, I did kind of do a bit of a dive in there. And as you alluded to how they've had trouble scoring, those 8 goals, to go there prior, 8 goals before that, took 7 games, dating all the way back to January 11th.
Yeah, I know.
I know you know, but, for everyone else. It's... Yeah, it's been a rough time, and I know I've spitballed with you a couple times, but considering they're constantly penalized, and they seem to play a lot scrappier and rougher of a style than other teams, and that's probably what leads to penalties. I have to wonder if if it's a systems problem, and then at some point, if that's just going to be a coaching problem. And at some point, do you then make a coaching change?
The system hasn't changed from last year, okay? So it's the same system. You can see them trying the same cycles. You can see them when they do play well. It looks very much like the team that was successful, especially on the power play last year. I would say that the biggest challenge is that the talent level has changed. And part of that is losing Daryl Watts, who is an exceptional forward. And as much as I'm going to say bad things about her, she was really a dynamo for the team. Part of that is Brianne Jenner putting up a goose egg for half the year, which has been legitimately very painful. Danielle Serdachny has not come as advertised. So there's all that stuff, which you could say is systems, but I don't think a lot of that stuff is. But ultimately, I do firmly believe that certain additions to the team, like Shan D'Arcangelo and Jocelyn Larocque, do not make it better than they were before. Joss has got a few points where Harman does not, both before and after the trade, and Skamura has not gotten anything, which Bach was actually, I think, a very smart move on that front. But ultimately, I think the talent level is low, and I think they're drawing more penalties because they don't have the foot speed, and they're drawing more penalties because they're not as talented defensively as they were, and they're not getting as many penalty attempts because they're not breaking through the zone at the same level of dynamicism they showed last year. So I don't think it's a coaching issue. I think it's a player issue, and that lands more on the general manager than the coach. And I don't have an answer here. There may not be, and it could just be that it's still people are meshing. We need players to grow, etc. It's going to depend on the back half of the season. If we see more like we did in the Frost game and the first part of the Takeover game, then I think the Charge will put on a good push. And if we go back to the way the first half of the season was, then I do think they need to talk about personnel changes at the end of the year.
All right. Cool, man. SJ, got any thoughts regarding Ottawa?
I don't really blame. I mean, it's tough that Serdachny hasn't popped, but it's still her first pro year. You know, give her a minute. She'll probably be fine. Yeah, I don't know. I really hate the money in, money out system around trades. Every trade has to be a hockey trade. You can't trade. They don't trade for futures. They have. You can,
but it's hard.
It's hard to do because you have to make the money work because the cap is the floor, and that is not a system that allows teams to really build for the future. And I don't know, and it's just so massively limiting in terms of like actually making trades that I don't think it's sustainable for the league. And that if they want to have a robust market where teams can like really change their destinies outside of the draft, then they need to have some separation between their cap and their floor.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that Ottawa is showing the challenges of that. I agree with you about Serdachny. It's her first pro year. And I will say, you watch her. She tries things that I think you could get away with in the NCAA, and you just can't in the PWHL, which speaks very fondly for how good the PWHL is as a league, how easily it's supplanted what was the best play in the world. But also, you know, there's a growing up period that needs to happen here. And I specifically did not lay all the blame on Serdachny. Like, I called out Jenner for a reason. Emily Clark is another one who is just not getting the opportunities and points that she should. Sorry, Tris. There is a large amount of the people who are supposed to be putting up points, the big money players for Ottawa, who aren't. And the only big money player who has exceeded expectations is, yet again, my close personal friend, Emmeryn Smashmeyer.
Yeah, she's been a rock.
Jordan, did you know she's my close personal? She arranged for her baby to be born on my birthday. That's how tight we are. Me and Beckham, 40 years apart exactly. Just saying.
I know that you're not going to give it to the losing goalie, but like based on how well she played in Edmonton, I don't know how she wasn't the third star ahead of Comfer. I don't know how Comfer was the third star at all, to be honest, but Mashmeyer was incredible. She made some, like, the game would not have gone to overtime without her.
Last year, she led in a few kind of soft goals, but this year, I don't think I've seen one where I've gone like, oh, that stank. I mean, there's been one or two where it's like, okay, yeah, but she's been on one this year. And the fact that Ottawa can't put in 10 more goals by this point in time to support her, it must be very frustrating to be her, but also it is, that's the difference between it being in a playoff spot and not, is 10 goals. So it has been very frustrating to be a Charge fan from that perspective. And yeah, like I said, I'm hoping we get more of these Minnesota Frost type games, the first period of that takeover game. Let's see that. But because I do think the team has the talent level. Its big players have not been producing. So if they get to the point where Jenner is doing stuff, Serdachny's doing stuff, Clark's doing stuff, if you get to the point if Mrazova can come back and she is at least 2/3 of the player she was last year, Ottawa all of a sudden has tons of offensive weapons that haven't been clicking this year. So I do think there is room to grow, but it has to actually happen, and that's why they play the games. So I guess I got to go watch some more. Hey, SJ, we should go watch a Charge game. Let's do that.
Okay, next week. Cool.
Next week,
we'll do it.
Yep, we will.
I want to cover a couple more games quickly. Do we want to talk the Sirens versus the Victoire, or do we want to talk the Frost versus the Fleet?
I didn't watch either of these games, so
I think we should talk about the Sirens for a second, because they started the year so well, and they have plummeted to the bottom of the standings recently. And I'm just kind of curious, like, what is going on there?
Alex Carpenter's hurt for one. So that really took away their top end talent, because Carpenter and Fillier together were incredible. But if you take that out, Philly can't do it all on her own, and no one else in New York's really capable of doing so. And to that point, I do want to, because the reason I mentioned the Victoire Sirens, that happened the day after, like a day or two after that Charge Frost game. Another great high scoring affair because the final score was 6-2. Also very funny because Jordan, you reminded me, all 8 of those goals happened on one end of the ice.
Painful.
Yeah, but a couple again gorgeous goals. Mainly because I've now found my new favorite player in the league, in Jennifer Gardner. Mainly because I didn't know she was from Surrey until they announced it about, as you alluded to, 4 times at Rogers Arena. But now I am all in on her, and holy smokes, I have made a good choice.
Do you have a Jennifer Gardner card yet? Is the question.
No, because she's a rookie this year, so her cards haven't been made yet, but they will be at the end of June.
All right.
She's going to be your special player for the PWHL, isn't she?
Oh, probably. Because, she scored the series-winning goal in the rivalry series for Canada. And then she set up Marie-Philippe Poulin for an absolutely gorgeous goal in that 6-2 game. It was like the 5th or 6th goal, so it may not mean a whole lot. But you got Gardner skating up the ice into the corner, just behind the back, no-look pass right in the stick of Poulin, who just rifles it top shelf. Mwah! Chef's kiss. Just inject it right into my veins. It was wonderful. Montreal just looks like a wagon at this point. Like as of recording, they have won 6 straight games, and they still have only lost 3 all year. And only one of those was in an actual PWHL arena. The other 2 were takeover tour games.
I just want to point out that Marie-Philippe Poulin has chosen to do only shoot, no pass this year.
Well, as she should. It rules.
11 goals.
Also currently down 2-0, so that winning streak may or may not be coming to an end.
Yeah, I was
it's
just
only
looking
2
that
goals.
up, actually.
It's only 2 goals.
We are.
They can come back.
It is the end of the second, so.
I mean, Poulin could do that on her own, and the way that she's been playing this year, she might.
It's so true. I mean, I think she single-handedly has carried them to a couple of victories in terms of the goal scoring. So, and yeah, as you alluded, having 11 goals, which now makes her the all-time goal scoring leader in the PWHL history. Please don't look at the games played because then Natalie Spooner is still laughing. But
Spooner had a hell of a season last year,
and she's back.
Unless she has to get on a plane to Edmonton, then she's not back.
And then finally, did also want to do a quick shout out for the Fleet, who also faced a 2-0 deficit against Minnesota a couple of days ago. Decided to go from their backup to their 3rd string goalie, who then proceeded to save every puck that she faced as the Fleet turned it around and won 4-2. So that's cool. And also, the Fleet have also been doing pretty well as of late. They're currently sitting in 2nd place.
Alina Mueller and Hillary Knight have been on fire the last few games, scoring I think they're 80% of their points were 80% of their goals had Mueller or Knight involved.
Wow.
So if it turns out if your good players are good, the team is going to do okay. That's kind of the lesson here.
I just realized they played a back-to-back and they won both games. Holy smokes.
Yep.
Wow, okay, go off.
Good
for them. It feels dirty having to say nice things about a Boston team, but here we are.
I think, Frankel has been incredibly good this year. She's been a wall for Boston. I put a lot of their success on the recent success on how well Frankel has played as well.
Yeah, Frankel has the 2nd lowest GA right now of qualifying players, with Amrene Debian being the only one ahead of her. Obviously, she has played a lot more minutes, though, over 100 more. It's real good. Save percentage. Let me sort by save percentage again. 2nd in qualifying players. So She is doing fantastic, and they are lucky to have her.
Yep. But because you mentioned too how Mueller's been on fire too, because she was quiet, like super quiet for the first month and a bit of the season.
Ice cold. Yeah. They moved her around a ton. I think they did everything they could to get her going. I was watching this last game with the Fleet, and Mueller made this great pass on a 2-on-1, and I don't remember who scored it, but I remember that when Mueller, she didn't even score she had the great pass, the primary assist, but when she sat down on the bench, Courtney Kessel went to her immediately and like patted her on the helmet and like was extremely effusive with her. And I was like, yeah, that's a coach that is like trying to help someone who's had a huge confidence hit, like really kind of get her game back. And I thought it was a really interesting, like 2 seconds.
I think we can wrap up the PWHL segment. Anyone else got any final thoughts? All right. So we're going to take a quick break. But before we do that, just as a reminder, you can follow us on Instagram or Blue Sky at Neutral Zone Hotel, all one word. You can also join our Discord at www.neutralzonehotel.com/Discord if you want to hang out with us. We're pretty cool sometimes. Maybe get a little heated about our certain teams, but I don't know. We're cool.
I think we're very chill.
We can be. Maybe come Thursday when this episode drops, maybe not as chill in there, but I'll leave that for you to find out. If you liked this episode, please rate us 5 stars in your podcast platform of choice. And hey, we're also available on YouTube at Neutral Zone Hotel. So click the like button, click the subscribe button, maybe ring the bell if you're really feeling antsy, and make sure to leave a comment because SJ will read it. And finally, if you got some feedback or just want to let us know how we're doing, send comments to feedback@neutralzonehotel.com or on our Discord. And we will be right back. Time to finally talk about some men. It's been the Four Nations Faceoff, which I will admit I was completely wrong about. This is ruled super hard. I also broke SJ there for a second. It was great. So with the Four Nations Faceoff, we've got a lot of stuff going on there. You got the obvious anthem controversy. You've had a lot of injuries, which has been kind of surprising, but at the same time, I think just goes to show how much effort a lot of the players are putting into it and how much on the line they're putting into it compared to what they would normally be doing this time of year, which is, half-assing it at an all-star game. And yeah, just, I don't know. Where do we want to start? Because I don't necessarily feel like we need to recap a lot of the games. Maybe we'll touch quickly on the USA-Canada preliminary game. But I don't know. You know what? Jordan, we'll start with you. What's been your overall thoughts on the Four Nations Faceoff so far?
Similar to you, I was dead wrong. I was very skeptical that this wasn't going to be a tournament players would take seriously, that most of them didn't really want to be there because it was affecting their vacation. It was going to just be like an all-star game, but over a week and a half. And it didn't even need to wait until the the Canada-USA game. From the very first game, we saw that the players cared. They tried. They were going all in. You get to see, as a Canadian, you get to see Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon just doing crazy things that I'm spoiled in that I get to watch McKinnon do that sort of stuff. But though he looks like he's having much more fun playing with Crosby than he does in the NHL. And I will not say anything that will get any Pittsburgh people mad at me.
Don't start the rumors again. Josh Yohe will write a column about you.
I was going to say, it's a good thing Alex isn't here.
I would just like to note that controversy gets clicks.
controversy makes cash, baby.
But the leading scorer of the tournament, Sidney Crosby, is having fun, it seems, and maybe he wants to have fun elsewhere. Who knows? The players really clearly care, and I was very wrong about that. It's been fun to watch. Even the games that, like, even the USA-Sweden game that didn't really matter for the standings in any way, they tried. So I have to give credit where it's due. This worked.
Let me pull back a little bit. I would say Sweden tried. I'm not convinced that the U.S. tried in the USA-Sweden game. Like, it started out like they were trying, and then, like, Brady got hurt, and then they stopped trying.
Brady was definitely trying when he got hurt.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's not that the USA didn't try, it's that they dressed maybe half of their roster.
I think...
Like, oh my God, so many guys.
They played 11-7. They played 11-7. Is what they did there.
I was worried about the tournament when Alex Pietrangelo of the NHL said he wasn't going to attend. That was like, oh, is this the first domino? Are we going to see 10 or 12 of these players drop out because of the nagging injuries, or they want to relax? And that didn't happen. The injuries that did occur were very legitimate and entirely to Finland. So I kind of
except for also Quinn Hughes.
Okay, well, I haven't gotten there yet, but because Quinn Hughes is trying to play, kind of, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah.
But when they sat Sidney Crosby and he was talking about how he was basically sitting on a Penguins game so he could get out there, I thought to myself, at least Team Canada is going to come out there flying, because if Sidney Crosby comes in that locker room and says, I sat down on an NHL game so I could be here today, if you guys don't try bust your ass off, you're going to hear it from me. Every single guy in that locker room is going to come out 100% on fire. Because, I know we know what's happening with that team when Sidney Crosby can no longer qualify for the international team. We know where the sea is going. Just like we knew where the sea was going to go in 2014 once Niedermayer was done. Just like we knew who was going to wear the sea in 2002. But if you don't think Sidney Crosby is the number one most respected hockey player in Canada right now, even with Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon and all these other guys, Cale Makar, who are winning awards, you are wrong. So when Sid said, I'm basically kind of like, this is the priority for me at this point, I thought, oh yeah, everyone's going to try. Because if Canada tries, everyone else will try. No one else is going to. And that's not to say like the Kachucks are very clearly taking this thing extremely seriously. The Swedish players, Hedman, very clearly. The Finns, they came out fighting. So, but yeah, the players did take it seriously, and that is fantastic. I truly hope we go to Milan. The NHL players go to Milan, because I could do more of this.
I mean, I saw so many next year. In Milano Cortina, the NHL returns to the Olympics. Like, they played that every commercial break during these games. They wanted you to know very clearly that they were in. I just don't think that they could pull out now.
I think from a business perspective, Gary Bettman has said multiple times that the NHL never saw direct revenue from the NHL participation in the Olympics. This is obviously kind of stupid, because the growth of hockey as an international game is directly tied to best on best participation at sport's biggest stage.
Yep.
However, he is right in that they didn't get dollars for it in that year. I think it is
indirect. It's indirect revenue.
Indirect revenue, which you can't really campaign on. However, I think it's very clear to the players who are, give it to this class of players, they are exceptional business owners compared to the class of players kind of before them and the class of players before that were involved in 98 and 2002. A lot of the guys on these hockey teams, these four national squads, are their team reps or their team rep backups with the NHLPA. So they understand that not only is this a obligation to your country, et cetera, it is also a business obligation to help the NHL feel whole for stopping their season next year. Because quite frankly, these games sold. They sold at, even despite all the controversy, they sold at very high value. And the players have committed to coming back and doing the World Cup in 2028, which will also be under NHL rules and also be held mostly in NHL arenas, and the revenue will be going to the NHL. So that is part of it. The players are saying, we want to go to the Olympics. We have to make this tournament worthwhile so that we sell tickets, we generate revenue, Gary Bettman can be happy, 2028 will do the same thing, and that's kind of like this repeating promise. We'll give you your own Olympics tournament every 4 years as long as you give us the Olympics. I think that's part of it. It's a quid pro quo, and I think this generation of players understands you got to do business, and if you're an NHL player, doing business means going out there and busting your butt.
Plus, like, as you mentioned, the Olympics obviously going to be played under international rules, which for the most part is fine. But when you play it under NHL rules, and we've seen it already take place, that's just a much different beast. Yeah. Again, because this is an audio medium, you can't see Benjamin shadow boxing up against his webcam. But fisticuffs were flying, and oh boy, did we get some full-blown patriotism going on. So I think we can just jump right into it then. The Canada-USA preliminary game. Obviously, with how everything has been going down in the world politically, just with, you know, the whole threat of annexation and just other general dumbassery from certain nations.
I want to be explicit about this, okay? So the current stance of the American president and his government is that tariffs need to be used as an economic weapon for the purpose of bringing Canada into the Union. At least he said it as the 51st state, not as a territory, like he wants Greenland and the Panama Canal. But ultimately, this is an Angelus. It's not an unserious threat. And Canadians are booing the American national anthem not because we dislike Americans. We don't. We might dislike certain ones, but in general, Canadians and Americans are good friends for reasons I won't get into because it will be way too long and impassionate, and I'll end up crying all over the place at the end of it. But ultimately, the American national anthem is not about the individual Americans. It's a symbol of the country and where it stands in the world. And where it stands in the world right now is in the absolute gutter. You do not do this to your friends. You do not threaten them with economic annihilation. And if you're an American listening to this, appreciate that it is a significant threat to the stability of this country. One that we will not take lying down, and we will do everything in our power to both retaliate and extract ourselves from American, the American economic engine. So I think that if that is the threat, booing the anthem is actually kind of nice. And if
very civil,
I think almost Canadian. And if a few Americans in Boston decide to boo us back, that's fine. But I think the good people of Boston in general appreciate that maybe it's not a reflection on them, but it is a reflection on their president and their government choices to destroy an alliance that has been written in blood for 90 years. So, yeah, if you have a problem with Canadians booing the American national anthem, go fuck yourself. I intend to boo it quite loudly every time I get a chance until either your president is dead, resigned, replaced, or he just fucks off with this tariff nonsense.
Amen.
Tell us how you really feel.
No, I do appreciate that you were candid about that because you put that so much better than I ever could.
I did think I do want to interject really quickly to say something nice. The Canada-US game, that prelim game, and the anthems, that's probably the best anthem singer I have heard, like, ever. He was really good. I should have looked up his name beforehand. He was great. He did a great job with both the U.S. and Canadian anthems. Even though the U.S. anthem got totally booed through, he did an awesome job at it. What a great anthem singer. Shout out to that guy. I was just really blown away.
David Grenon of the Royal Canadian Air Force Band. That is who sang.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for looking that up. And also Canada, feel free to keep booing my anthem. It's fine. I'm good with that.
You want to, SJ, do you want to join us in booing it?
He advertises himself on his Instagram as Loud Notes Belter, Cheesy Songwriter, Wine, Cheese, and Coffee Amateur, World Okayest Gay Dad Joker, Pride Flag, Canada Flag, little head thing. Seems like
this man
a
is an icon.
Yep.
This man is an icon.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
With him, so.
Yep. Everybody go follow him on Instagram if you're still on that cursed platform.
Yeah, that is at Soulbear Official.
Cool.
It also should be mentioned that the broadcast tried to stifle the boos. It sounded like the WWE trying to, create a Roman Reigns entrance. That's a joke for Benjamin. Benjamin will know what I'm referring to. Let me just put it this way. They failed. Because I could still very clearly hear boos coming through the broadcast. So way to go, Montreal.
Yeah.
You represented.
You cannot get on and tell a bunch of Quebecers not to boo the Canadian national, or not to boo a national anthem. They will not listen. They will only boo louder. And then somehow a bunch of Quebecers go ahead and sing the Canadian national anthem as loud as possible. My God. Jean Chrétien wishes he had this power.
Yeah. This is how you know you've mucked up, when you can get the province of Quebec to willingly go all in on Canada.
I mean, there's a lot of really good, a lot of really great Quebecers who are very pro Canada. But in a poll that came out today, 95% of Bloc Québécois voters are against the concept of annexation by the United States, which is higher than the Liberal Party.
Wow.
That's amazing. Holy smokes. But yeah, so we went through the anthems, we went through the booing, and you could definitely tell that Team USA decided to take that as fuel, whether it be through ignorance or just motivation. And the puck drops. We get underway. 1 second passes, 2 seconds pass. And then Matthew Tkachuk decides to drop his gloves with Brandon Hagel. And this is what separates truly the Four Nations tournament and potential World Cups from anything you'll ever see at the Olympics. It might be staged, but you could tell there were some haymakers thrown. Hagel threw his arms in the air, tried to pump up the crowd. Also a nice little nod to the Florida-Tampa Bay rivalry between that. Everything happens. The crowd's loud. We're getting real, kind of going caveman brain there. Drop the puck again. And then Brady Tkachuk decides to go fight Sam Bennett. Brady goes to the penalty box. Matthew high fives him, gives him a hug, and it's looking like the Bash Brothers in D2. And then, we get another face-off. Puck gets cleared to the Canadian zone. Puck gets frozen. Off of that, while Bennington's holding it, JT Miller decides that he wants to fight Colton Parayko.
I think he wanted to fight anybody who was going to take it.
Oh, yeah. Well, because Miller was poking at Parayko before Brady dropped the gloves. So he wanted to go, Parayko seemed to be the one option there. Because, they showed, before that face-off, kind of a replay of Miller and Parayko, lining up on each other. Miller's, giving him cross-checks and, pushing him, come on, man, come on, let's go. So that was a bit of a time coming. And I should point out, Miller is about 6 feet even. Parayko's 6'5". There was a bit of a size mismatch. Miller got his lunch fed to him, and I don't know if any of y'all have seen it, but there is an incredible slowed down clip of Miller trying to fire an uppercut, completely whiffing and knocking off his own helmet.
It was so good. Jordan, what did you think of the fights and this game in general?
Fun thing about that is I didn't actually get to see the first period until after the game ended because my flight from Calgary to Edmonton got delayed. So I get to So I was supposed to land before the game started. I wound up landing. The Edmonton airport, for anyone who hasn't been there, is nowhere close to the city. So I wind up landing right about puck drop, and so I get to where I'm watching it for the right at the end of the first. So I watch the rest of the game. I'm following along with what's happening on Blue Sky. I'm scrolling through that while making my way over there, but didn't get to see it live. But then Sportsnet, for whatever reason, decided as soon as the game ended to show it a second time. So we just left it on. We were playing board games the rest of the night. We left it on, and I just watched the first period after the third.
No biggie.
I mean, the game I think the first period had enough juice to justify that choice. So I love it.
I mean, sometimes you eat dessert before eating dinner. It happens. But, yeah. So to kind of summarize, the result didn't necessarily go the way that 3 of the 4 people on this call would have liked, but that's all right. SJ, as the resident American in this call, how did you feel about that game?
I thought it was a pretty fun game. The actual play after I am an anti-fight person. I prefer hockey without fights in it. So one of the things that I appreciate about the women's game is that it's still very physical. There's still a lot of pushing and shoving, but nobody squares up at center ice and starts throwing haymakers. It's just not a part of the game that I am ever going to appreciate. And I recognize that is a minority position. I'm not going to die on the no fights in hockey hill. I might die on that hill for juniors because I don't need to see 19-year-olds knocking the shit out of 16-year-olds at any point. But these are adult men. They can get concussions if they really, really want to. I do, however, recognize that the fact that they had 3 extremely stupid fights at the beginning of this game gave the whole rest of the game quite a lot of juice. It also gave it a lot of interest. It got eyeballs. It got people to tune in. And then after that, they got to watch a pretty good hockey game. Hold on a second. Leif, go lay down. Stop it. Go.
Just want to welcome Life to the broadcast. Our second special guest for the night.
Yeah.
Mark it off your bingo cards.
There you go.
He won't shut up.
You know what? If there was ever a neutral zone hotel bingo, Life, go lie down in quotation marks might be the free space.
It's not that bad. But I agree. And, my biggest concern around fighting in hockey isn't whether or not it should happen, but whether or not the NHL has adequately informed the players the risk of CTE and similar conditions, which they still aren't, but that is a wildly different conversation. So, but I do think that the people who engaged in fights are pretty well aware at this point, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, Matthew and Brady and JT Miller and, the guys that they were, Hagel and Bennett, certainly Bennett, and Parayko, they knew what they were getting into. I personally don't think that those were good trades for as far as guys sitting in the box for the U.S., but nothing, it was fine. They didn't get scored on. Not a lot happened, I think, while they were sitting in the boxes. And the rest of the game had quite a lot of juice. There was that incredible Connor McDavid goal. You can't hate that. It was an incredible shot. It was so good. And then some great defensive play in the third when the U.S. basically turtled the entire third period and Canada got nothing on that. I'm not kind of the person that loves defensive hockey, but they did it very well, and you do have to appreciate that. So yeah, there was when McAvoy getting embarrassed on that McDavid goal and then absolutely taking it out on McDavid for the rest of the game, McDavid doesn't take a whole heck of a lot of really hard hits because he is so fast and so crafty and such a great skater. McAvoy absolutely nailed him. Like, clean, legal hit. He wasn't hurt, but just a really hard body check. And it was fun to watch. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good game.
I've come around a lot more on being anti-fighting. It's still something that when it happens, I will admit I go caveman brain. And let's put it this way. When JT Miller and Colton Parayko dropped the gloves, did I yell, fuck him up, Parayko, really loud in my bedroom? You better believe I did. Which I would do if JT Miller was still a Canuck. But he's not, so now it's even better. Now I'm even more just fun doing that. But it did, as you said, like it set the tone for it, but it still didn't take away from what was ultimately an incredible hockey game. And to go to that McDavid goal, I gotta say, it's really nice to cheer for a McDavid goal. I'm used to like hating them.
So cool.
So
you put that guy on the ice with the puck, and he is awesome. It's incredible.
Well, and someone else that I've really come to appreciate this tournament as well with how good he is Nathan McKinnon. And Jordan, when you and I went and saw the Canucks versus the Avalanche together, I think I commented a couple times saying like, "Holy smokes, he's so good live!" Like I'm so happy I got to see this. But being able to like do it, and instead of just like from a neutral or like a "this is great, now stop doing it against my team" perspective, instead I get to be like, "Yes, keep doing this." Has been wonderful. Canada, yeah, if you want to compare the Canada and the States, which we can also utilize because both those teams ended up finishing first and second, so they will be meeting in the tournament final, which probably will be occurring just when this episode drops. Slightly unfortunate release schedule, but it is what it is. But in terms of high-end, top-end talent, Canada probably has that down. Like, if you take, like, the top 3 or 4 players, it's Canada. Then it's probably a lot of States guys with maybe 1 or 2 Canadians interspersed. Like, in terms of just solid depth, I do think the Americans have the advantage. And let's be honest, in terms of goaltending, it is not close.
Is this the Connor Hellebuck appreciation minute?
No, I'm not appreciating Connor Hellebuck.
I will. I think Connor Hellebuck's the best goaltender in the world right now. What's wrong with that? He's incredible, and he had a really good game against Canada already. There's nothing saying he can't do it again. I for one, think that it's worth noting. And, like, nothing against Sam Montembeault and Aiden Hill, and slightly something against Jordan Binnington. They aren't on the same level. And they're not on the same level as Swayman or even Ottinger, to be fair. That being said, I do think that Canada's top 4 or 5 guys should be able to crack Hellebuck. He is only human. The Avalanche absolutely ran over him last year, and you might not know this, but Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar play for the Avalanche, so they have the capacity. I firmly think they have the capacity to destroy the United States if they want to. Go ahead.
It is going to be better in the championship game because Cale Makar will be playing, and I think that's that is going to be that's quite the get back for Canada.
Quinn Hughes may be coming, so there is injury.
I don't think it's happening.
I don't think so either. But to be clear, McAvoy is out. He apparently has an infection that started around an injury in his upper body, so he was hospitalized. So he's not like a little hurt. He's pretty out. Canada was allowed to add Thomas Harley when they had 2 injuries, and apparently Team USA has been told they cannot add Quinn Hughes unless another player goes down. At this point, according to Elliot Friedman, the situation is, quote, fluid, unquote.
They're quote, making it up as they go along, end quote.
Apparently
the
he
Gary
was
Bettman special.
He Quinn Hughes has already been to New Jersey and then back from New Jersey back to Vancouver. So it's quite a situation. I hope they let Quinn Hughes play, because if Canada wins and Quinn Hughes is on the ice, the amount of excuses from Americans will be lower.
it doesn't, excuses, I don't care about the excuses, right? I don't think it matters. Like, I think you field the team you got. You field the team, and then you play the game, and then you move on with your life. And I just don't think that anybody needs to, like, spend any kind of time, like, explaining away the result to say that it should have gone the other way. It's like, this is the team you got, this is what happened.
First of all, did you say it's time to play the game? Time to play the game.
I don't know what reference you're making.
So it's a wrestling thing.
Oh, okay.
If Lemmy comes back to life, we're good. It's not you. It's American sports writers, and it's true on every sport. They're America. According to sports writers, America is not allowed to lose. They're not allowed to be beaten. They're only allowed to lose. So ultimately, I want Quinn Hughes out there because I want it to be the best two teams, so it's the best game of hockey possible. I firmly believe this is the best Team USA that's ever been fielded. Firmly.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Head to toe. Better than the 96 World Championship team. Better than the 2002 and the 2010 Olympic teams. It's an incredible hockey squad. And I think that Team Canada is so close to being the best team that Canada has ever thrown out there. It's very close to 87, the 87 Canada Cup, in terms of star power, head to toe. If it had a goaltender who wasn't Jordan Binnington, if we could just go get 29-year-old Martin Brodeur and just drop him in there you go. Problem solved. But ultimately, it's still one of the best teams Canada's ever fielded.
Carey Price from 5 years ago.
Oh, give me Carey Price from 5 years ago.
10 years ago, but yeah.
No, 5 years ago. That's the cup run. Come on. I'll take him.
Yeah, but 10 years ago, you get the 2014 Olympics.
He put up a 930 in that playoffs after they lost the last four games.
Fell apart.
He left everything, including most of his knee, on the ice. So ultimately,
that's what that stain was.
That's what that stain was. Ultimately, I think that if you have a goaltender, I do think this could be the best Team Canada ever, and it should be a hell of a hockey game. I just really hope that we don't see legions of if Quinn Hughes was allowed to play takes. But if Canada wins, I predict we'll see at least five think pieces from American sports writers if Quinn Hughes is allowed to play within a week. Just saying.
I just wanted to note that nobody is forcing you to read those think pieces.
I didn't say I was going to read them. I'm just going to look for the thing at the top. What do they call it?
Byline?
The
headline?
The headline? The link button?
The link button.
Yeah, instead of the Athletics 5 reasons why, it's going to be 5 articles that all state that the U.S. shouldn't have lost with this.
I can even...
All right. I think we're kind of closing in on time, if not past it. So, one quick last roundup. Predictions for the final score. SJ, we're going to start with you. What do you think the result of the final is going to be?
I think it's going to be a very close game. I will predict 3-2 in overtime. U.S. wins.
Who scores? Who scores that OT winner?
Oh, sweet. Austin Matthews.
Ooh. All right, Jordan, what do you think?
Right. So the big thing, I think the single player whose reputation can change the most from this game, the player who has the most riding on it is also one of the best. It's Connor Hellebuck, whose reputation right now is the Henrik Lundqvist, best regular season goalie in the world right now. Come playoffs, he falls apart. And gotta hope that I don't know that that's a fair assessment of his game, but I'm hoping it is. Let's go 5-3 Canada.
Do you remember what happened to Henrik Lundqvist in his one really, really true best of? Remember what happened in 2006? They won everything that year. So he just never won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, when he was a rookie.
I am also going 3-2 in overtime. I am going to say Canada wins. And I'm going to say it's Sidney Crosby scoring the golden goal yet again, screaming for a pass from Nate McKinnon. Nate! Boom.
The Nate heard around the world.
Right.
We're going to get another compilation of 19 calls in different languages.
Or maybe they lose a bunch of players and they have to dress Jerome McGinley. Just saying. You could do it. Why not?
I mean, hey, we've seen him in Boston before. Just show up randomly. As for me, I will also go on the overtime bandwagon. I'm going to say it's 4-3 for Canada, with the goal scored by Brad Marchand, and Boston fans aren't going to know what to do.
That is legitimately very funny, though.
That would be funny.
Yeah. Trust me, I hate that. I hate that it would come down to Marchand. I've already had to feel bad about it before because of the 2016 World Cup. I'm like, sweet, Canada won. Oh God, Marchand's the one who did it.
Are we sure Marchand is going to be in the lineup for that game?
I mean, yeah, they might dress Jerome McGinley, like I said. I have faith in Canada. I do. I think that just get down to it. If can't they need a goal, just put out the super line. Makar, McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, and someone else. Doesn't matter at that point. Who do you want? Braden Point, I don't know.
Sure. Regardless. So before we go fully into the wrap up, I just want to say thank you, everyone, to you, the listener, for listening. Thank you especially to our guest, Jordan. Great to have you on. Thank you for your insight on the Takeover Tour. Greatly appreciated. And of course, with that said, you have been listening to the Neutral Zone Hotel, which is written, hosted, and produced by the Neutral Zone Hotel crew. You can find out more at neutralzonehotel.com. And while you're on that website, do a / and type in Discord. You can get access to our Discord server where you can come and chat with us. You can follow us on Instagram or Blue Sky at Neutral Zone Hotel. And we're also on YouTube at the same @. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget, you can also email us at feedback@neutralzonehotel.com. You can tell us how we did, things that maybe we can improve on. And finally, if you like this episode, rate us 5 stars in your podcast platform of choice. Hit the like button on YouTube. We like to hear what we're doing right. And with that said, thank you again so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Should have ended this with, this has been Neutral Zone Hotel, a podcast where life begs for SJ's attention, and occasionally we talk about hockey.